Hey there, everybody, it's Wayne D. Welcome to the website. It's WayneD.com, and we're going to look today at swing of Gary Woodland, and I'm going to show you what I think is a pattern that's I'm seeing more and more. If you look at DJ and Koepka both, what we're going to see the takeaway, bring the club out away from the body, and it's going to do what the golf machine would call a right forearm takeaway. So what's going to happen is and this is something that Jeff Mann showed me, the right wrist is going to bend back, and that's going to in turn flatten the left wrist early in the backswing, and the club is going to stay on the flying wedge. So that's a right forearm flying wedge, or you could call it a left forearm flying wedge, where the shaft is right on the plane, but you can see how it's gone out away from the body. So what we're doing is we're getting the left arm well in front of the body. So as we're looking at progressions, if we look at like old Tiger swings, we're going to see him do the same thing, and this is a Harmon specialty. So we get the big outward progression on the backswing to P3, and you'll see the right elbow fairly in front, so no real flare, and the left wrist is going to be a little flatter. So once the club is taken out in front, it's not going to have very much progression at all going up. So Woodland here can be said to almost have this would be a 13 back and 0 almost to get to the top. Remember, when we're looking at those progression numbers, and you go from address so what we're doing is we're taking the shaft at address, and here you see Woodland's at 58. And we go up to P3 and we draw a line from the end of the grip, and we see what the club has done as far as progressing upward, and we're seeing that as 12. And then if we go up to the top, we're going to draw another line from the end of the grip, and we're going to see that if I draw that right smack on the end of that grip, it's going to be 70 again. So we're going up, we're not going up anymore. So that's what I would say would be out in front and then over a little bit. Now this is interesting when you talk about the transition and you see the shaft go from on plane to just slightly steeper. So you'll see the grip is going to travel just a little bit more downward here and not out to the ball, because it's sort of out and over and then down a little bit. But now what Woodland's going to do is he's going to control the shaft. He's not going to let it flatten anymore. He's going to keep the right arm a little more to his side, because certainly every time you move the handle downward, the right arm, you can see it, the right arm is going to move backwards a little bit, and then the upper right arm is going to be up against the side a little more. But what he's going to do is he's going to keep that shaft right there. So take a look at where that shaft is, and he's going to set up for a fade. So he's keeping the club out in front of him by virtue of excellent lower body movement, where he maintains his depth perfectly. And we'll really see that with the driver. So watch the hip movement. It's just he's so strong that there's just not a nudge of motion up underneath himself, and so that keeps the club from getting trapped. So notice how has more depth than when he started. And what's also super important here, if we get rid of all these lines, is just take a look at that. Take a look at that left wrist angle. He's adding flexion. So the turning down of the left arm, so you roll that left arm down into the chest, keep the right arm to the side, and the shaft is going to stay up, and the hips are perfectly deep. And now we can just take the club to the left. Watch where the exit is, and that's going to be a little bit of a left to right feel to that shot. Now let's take a look. So here's a couple other swings that look quite a bit like that one. Here's another iron shot from further. So it's going to see the same pattern here. Let's watch. The shaft's going to go out away from the body. Hands in front of the chest. So look how the hands are right in front of the sternum here. So, and the hands are pretty low, and that's a common thing. That's a comfortable setup for a lot of guys. And then watch how away it goes. But also notice that when the shaft goes away, it's still on the far side of the hands. So this is again what I would call well in front of him. There's the right arm. And when it sets, it's going to set a little bit and steepen just a hair. But also notice that it never, in Woodland's case, the club is never crossing the line. So whereas you watch a swing that crosses is going to have to wheel back, Woodland's swing is different. It's going to go up and it's going to steepen a little bit, and then he's going to control the shaft right in front of him. He's going to keep the hips back. He's going to turn the left arm down his chest and turn the left wrist down, adding flexion to the left wrist, which gives him a forward lean and a nice strike. And then watch how left this goes. So these shots are just all nice little fades, and I would call this just a fade pattern. Now check out the driver. And Woodland's an incredibly strong guy, and when you have that kind of strength and then you control your lower body the way he does, check out his lower body. I mean, how many of you watching this would like to have control of your midsection and your hips like this? I mean, so when the lower body works that well, and if you watch his head, one of the things that allows that left arm to turn down and to keep that club in front of him is that, look where his forehead is, right there. Another huge factor in a golf swing. So he's way lower than he started, but his head is right out over the ball. So with that outward takeaway, he's got a little bit of a lift going on in the backswing, but not a big deal, because by the time he gets to the top, he's back where he was and forward a little bit. Look at where the forehead is. So there's that little set move where the club lags back, tremendous amount of downcock. And then what most guys don't have is the ability to keep this type of transition where it's flattening mid-downswing from getting stuck behind. Woodland's got perfect control. He leaves his right arm, doesn't drive it overly, so he's not using a huge amount of external rotation and adduction. He's just leaving the arm where it is and using the pivot to drag that left arm. And take a look at that. Take a look at that left wrist right here. So that's a talent move when that left wrist rolls down. And he's going to square the face up, take it around to the left, and once again, it's just going to hit him a nice fade out there about 310. So again, that's what I would call a fade pattern. So I kind of like that. Here's an older swing from the front. Let's see. You can see that left wrist. So if we look at the face on and we look at the hips. Always interesting to see what guy's got a little back move and then a little forward move. So definitely after he sets the hips back a little bit in the backswing. So from right where he puts them here to where he gets them, there's the amount of forward. So once again, you'll see that most of these good players, when they're hitting an iron shot, have plenty of lateral. But again, I think the big thing here is that the action is built for a left to right shot, and the guys are so strong now that it's like, okay, why not just hit it with a little fade?